Clara Hughes won medals of every color, taking the podium at both Summer and Winter Olympic Games. She is another kind of champion, too, a tireless advocate for mental health awareness. She's the most prominent voice for Bell's nationwide Let's Talk initiative, and she's written about her own struggles in her memoir, Open Heart, Open Mind. And with that, we welcome, arguably, Canada's greatest ever Olympian. There's Clara Hughes. Welcome to our studio.
Thanks, Steve.
I'm allowed to call you that, aren't I?
I'm kind of blushing.
I think you are.
I was surrounded by great athletes and was inspired by great athletes my whole athletic life. So I think I'm one of many that did pretty good.
On my list, you're at the top, which is pretty impressive because normally it's hockey players and baseball players. So that's neat. Let's just remind everybody, this is a bit of a summary of your accomplishments. I'm not going to bore you too long here, but here we go. A 24-year career as an athlete in two sports, cycling and speed skating. 6-time Olympian. 6. Gold, silver, 4 bronze, Summer and Winter Olympics. Countless other medals. Officer of the Order of Canada. Are you wearing it? Where's your pin? Oh, shame. The Governor General is going to bust you so bad. Member of Canada Sports Hall of Fame. Honorary degrees from 6 different universities. Honorary witness at Canada's Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And when I got up at 6 o'clock this morning and went out to pick up the newspaper on my stoop, look what was waiting for me. That's not a bad picture.
I think the message is what's important. Let's talk.
Indeed.
Yeah.
This is obviously a big day for Let's Talk, but can I start by just sort of asking you what you do for the other 364 days of the year?
So many different things. And people ask me since I quit competing after the London Olympics, they're like, so what do you do now? And I'm like, it would take a long time to explain to you what I do, but I enjoy life. I do so many things. I just try to connect to who I am, to connect to this natural world. My husband Peter and I love to do adventure travel.
I just met Peter.
Yeah, he's a pretty great guy.
I can't vouch for that, but I can vouch for the fact he's a lucky SOB, I can tell you that.
I'm the lucky one.
Okay.
And I say that without exaggeration, but it's really about trying to live a connected life and connect with others and do a lot of different works and volunteerism with young Canadians, Indigenous and non-Indigenous, just really trying to inspire them and motivate them to become their potential. And a lot of the stuff that I do, people don't know about. It's very quiet, it's grassroots, and it's really just about getting involved and being connected.
I want to find out how you first got connected with Let's Talk, which is 2011 we're going back to now, yes?
Yeah, and it really was after the Vancouver Olympics. Bell Canada was my main sponsor. They had been for a number of years. And after I skated my last Olympic race, I came in 3rd and won one of those beautiful Vancouver medals that are like the mountains and the sea and the beautiful artwork on them. I had a chance to travel around Canada and share with Bell employees, with George Cope, the CEO, on the roadshow, what the Olympics were to Canada, and of course the corporation as well. A lot of work went into those Olympics to make sure all the photo finishes were transmitted, the fastest speed, all of that. But what I learned on that roadshow was that Bell Canada was taking on mental health as their only focus for charitable giving and advocacy. And I actually asked to be a part of it. I learned about Let's Talk and about really, putting their name on a building on CAMH and learning that corporations hadn't done that when it comes to mental health facilities and hospitals. All of this stuff I had never considered. And what I did know, though, clearly was I had my own lived experience. My family does, so many of my friends and my teammates. It's something that I felt was affecting everyone around me. And then I started thinking about how nobody was talking about it, and maybe my story would help someone, I hoped.
Nobody was talking about it because why?
Because of the stigma, because of the misunderstanding, lack of education. And I also think, it goes from institutionalized mental health care in hospitals that were essentially the door was locked and the key was thrown away for somebody who was suffering from psychological illness or living with one of those afflictions, to more community-based care, outpatient care. So I think that definitely what has shifted is the way that these illnesses are treated, and it's brought it into the community. I'm not going to say it's perfect and that it's been a smooth transition. There's a lot of work work and a lot of funding that needs to happen for us to be functional in the way that we can, to make sure that everyone has treatment in the right way. But I think that it really brought the people struggling back into the communities and brought it front and center. And I think the campaign has definitely helped bring the conversation to light, but I know that there have been people working for decades to do just that, to bring this front and center to Canadians' minds. So I think the foundation was set. And it was ready. We were ready for somebody to take this on, and Bell did it.
It's certainly given the issue prominence that it otherwise would not have had.
Yeah.
But are there other tangible benefits that you've seen over the last 7 years since this has started?
Absolutely. I mean, almost $80 million has been injected into the work of anti-stigma and to the work of breaking down the walls that prevent people from getting help, that make people suffer in silence and the lives that are lost. That work has been done. Workplace mental health has improved drastically. There's been the national standard for workplace mental health. There was a national, what we can strive to be, a national mental health strategy that was written in 2012. Queen's University has the only worldwide chair for mental health and anti-stigma research that was just renewed yesterday at Queen's University. Another $1 million, another 5 years to go into Dr. Heather Stewart's work that is really shaking things up. So not to mention all the community grants. This money's been injected into good places, and as a spokesperson, I've had the chance to go out in the field and meet people that are doing the work, that are getting the funds, and not just from Bell, from RBC, from many corporations, and also sometimes the government to implement the work and the programs that are really helping people.
In the midst of that first answer, you said you had your own lived experience with it, which is what helped steer you towards this and presumably made you feel you could make a contribution to it. When somebody first brought up the notion to you that, Clara, I think you're demonstrating all of the symptoms of somebody suffering from depression, what was your reaction to that?
That's not me. It's not me. You're not going to tell me what's wrong with me. And it was a doctor who told me that. And I went from winning 2 Olympic bronze medals to it was probably December after the Olympics that summer. I'd put on at least 35 pounds. I was crying uncontrollably. I was sleeping many, many hours a night and unable to do my job of training and literally out of control. And then I honestly thought I just had to be more disciplined. What was wrong with me is that I was lazy, that I was out of shape, and I had to make myself better. And so having that first introduction to being educated on what someone saw in me, first there was a revolt because I didn't want to become that. I didn't want to be sick, because being sick for me, I had seen with people around me, and it scared me. It scared me and it confused me.
How does an Olympic medal winner, though, get to a point where she thinks that she's lazy?
Oh, this doesn't even come from sport. This goes like, you should come and you need to talk to my psychologist to fully understand. But really, so many struggles people have are rooted in early childhood trauma. And for me, it comes from coming from a dysfunctional family. My mom and dad did the best that they could, but my dad had an alcohol problem that really affected our household. Our family broke up, and it was an abusive environment as well, verbally. And that's what I grew up with. And as a child, I internalized all those things happening as my fault. I couldn't fix them. And when you're 5 years old and you feel that way, you carry that guilt with you in everything you do. So when I say those words were planted at a very young age, and they're what probably drove me to be good at something, and that something became sport. As a young person, it drove me to be delinquent and drink and do drugs and just
Affected your sister too.
Exactly. It affected both of us. And sport really got me off that track and off that path. But I entered a new path of destruction that culminated with my first Olympics and winning those medals and then hitting rock bottom after. It's a story. I mean, so many people have this story. It's not unusual. It's just that.
I don't think so many Olympic athletes have this story, do they?
Oh, yeah, yeah. And, I've had the chance to work different Olympic Games with CBC in different roles. But one of them in the Sochi Olympic was being kind of a roaming reporter. And I had the chance to interview a Dutch athlete who had just won a gold medal, Stefan Groothuis, in the 1,000 meters. And I knew from one of the Dutch journalists that he had struggled from Vancouver to Sochi and was suicidal in that time. and got help and got back, and he won the Olympics. I asked him after his gold medal performance, what does this medal mean to those who struggle with mental health? And he said, it means that there's hope. It means that there's light. This medal represents that you can get your life back. And to see someone, an Olympic champion, this strong guy, and you know, in Holland, speed skating is like hockey in Canada, it was huge. And the message he was sending was that, you know, darkness and light, strength and weakness, we are everything in the spectrum of emotions and strengths as human beings.
I appreciate the family background as being contributory to the circumstances you found yourself in. But I wonder whether you also found a physiological, chemical imbalance in the brain that also contributed to all of this as well.
Not that I know of, because depression isn't a chemical imbalance. You know, my sister lives with bipolar disorder, and she's an amazing woman, and she takes medication to balance out that chemical imbalance. But depression is, you know, they're still trying to figure out what exactly it is. It has a lot to do with microbes in the gut, has a lot to do with many different things. And for me, it really was, it manifested big time, and I was not able to do my job for 2 years. I tried racing my bike. I would, you know, get myself back into shape and just be pushing, and the voices in my own head, how I talked to myself, were so abusive. And I only thought I would be okay if I was strong and winning races again. And I'd get myself to that point, and then I'd hit rock bottom again. I had an injury in my ankle, diagnosed as eventually, like 2 years later, as bursitis, chronic. Nobody could figure out what it was. And the moment I started, I backed off and left sport and gave myself a break and started exploring help and walking the healing path. That injury disappeared. So it affects you in many different ways. 500,000 Canadians every day are off work because of a mental health related sick leave. I was one of those people for a couple of years. So it affected every element of my life.
Here's how you describe some of it in your book, Open Heart, Open Mind. It was only after winning 2 bronze medals in the Atlanta Olympics that I came to the stark realization that perhaps medals weren't going to provide me with self-worth. That's when the depression began again, and the self-abuse, sometimes with alcohol, sometimes with food, even silver and gold hadn't helped. That's a startling realization to come to. How can you be, you know, it's, I don't pretend for a second this is an original question, but it's just, I'm sure people are having a hard time getting their heads around the notion of you on that podium, listening to your anthem, being the darling of the country, and feeling like you don't amount to anything.
I think it's something that a lot of people can relate to, you know? It's like you have the house, you have the car, you have the family, you have the job, you have the title. And then you go to the bar and you drink it all away because you can't handle the success because the self-worth is not there inside. And for me, it really has been a pretty incredible journey working with different doctors and healers to understand like who that little kid is inside, that little 5-year-old that felt so guilty and responsible, and learning that, okay, you know, it wasn't your fault, it isn't your fault, and you're okay.
Did you ever get things resolved with your dad? I know he's passed away subsequently, right?
No, I didn't, and that's what is really difficult. I have dreams about him. He comes back in my dreams and he tells me I'm not that bad. You know, I'm not that guy. And my dad, last time I saw him, it was in a geriatric psychiatric ward, and he had advanced dementia. And when I went and I hugged my big, strong dad, who was so frail, he was a rebel too. He was a renegade. He was pointing out at the bus stop because he was trying to tell me he was going to escape from that place. And then he looked at me and he said, I thought I lost you. And then he looked at my mom. He said, maybe we can all come here and be a family. And I remember just laughing and crying at the same time and thinking it's a little late for that, Dad. But all I said was, I love you. And that's all I could do. I was never able to face his issues with him because I knew it would alienate me from him. And maybe I wasn't strong enough to do that. I'll never know. But I also knew that I was kind of the one thing that he was able to feel really good about, and I didn't want to take that away from him. So it's so complicated, and yeah, it is for everyone. You know, my family, maybe it's a little different. We have our own version of dysfunction, but so many people I talk to, they're like, oh, wait till you hear my family story, and then you hear this just wild ride of a family experience. So I know I'm not alone in it, and I'm just really grateful that I had some great moments with my dad. And also, you know, as much as dysfunction he had, he also passed passed on a lot of great things to me and my sister, and he passed on a love of literature and the arts, and just a really strong belief that we could do anything. Didn't matter if we were girls, didn't matter if we were green, blue, purple, or brown.
You got that from him.
He was just like, you go and you take on the world, and you never put someone above you, and you never put someone below you. Everyone's human, everyone is equal. He taught me that, yeah.
That's not bad.
That's not bad at all, yeah. But it is complicated.
Was there anybody along the way who could be the confidant you may have needed to talk to about any of this?
Which part of the way?
Well, I guess, I mean, starting with childhood and then going through later years?
But when I do look back, and I didn't do very well at school because I wasn't interested in it. And it was ironic, my dad was an English professor at the University of Manitoba, and school just didn't make sense to me. But the one thing that did was my art class. And Mr. Stevens was my art teacher in junior and high school. And even when I was like not going to school anymore, I would sometimes go to art class. And Mr. Stevens always told me and all of my fellow students that were getting in so much trouble on the streets of Winnipeg, he'd be like, you're better than this. You are so much better than this. You need to take care of yourself. You need to stop smoking. You need to stop drinking. And he would allow us to create something. And every one of us, if we didn't have an artistic bone in our body, he made us feel like we belonged and we created something beautiful. And I have to say, all these years later, I still use art as a form of therapy because of Mr. Stevens. He's a big influence on me.
And yet, you didn't stop the drinking and the smoking despite his admonition.
No. But you know what? When I saw the Olympics and saw Gaetan Boucher skate in '88, I was just like, I am going to do that. And I quit smoking, and I went back to school and went from absentees to A+ in math because I wanted to represent the province and travel to Saskatchewan. What happened was this transformation, and it immediately happened. And when I got on that right track, I'd be done my artwork early, and art would be my last class. He'd be like, you know what, Clara, just go home. I know you're going to go home and train, and I know you want to work hard. So go home and use this time. So it was really cool to see that the one class I went to ended up being the class I got to leave early when I got on the right track.
And Boucher was the motivation.
Oh, absolutely.
How many golds did he win at that games?
He didn't win any in Calgary. I saw him in Calgary, not Sarajevo.
Oh, you didn't say, because Sarajevo he won.
That was where
5 or something. It was ridiculous.
That was Eric Heiden did pretty good. But Gaetan Boucher won, so many Olympic medals, and Sarajevo, he won 2 gold medals and a bronze. And what I saw in Calgary was somebody who had been injured, an athlete who he wasn't in his best race, but he gave everything of himself. And I'd never seen anybody suffer as much as he did. And just the beautiful motion of speed skating and a lot of really good-looking guys wearing head-to-toe lycra really connected me to the sport. I'm not going to lie.
But how did you? I mean, you know how few world-class athletes there are who are good at one thing. Where did you get the notion in your head that you actually wanted to be among the best in the world at 2 sports?
It didn't. I just kind of got recruited into cycling and ended up being really good at it. There's a lot of crossover with speed skating and cycling. Speed skaters all have bikes to train on. And even rowing and speed skating, there's a lot of crossover. So that summer, I actually thought I was going to be a rower. I was more interested in rowing than I was bike racing. And I got invited to a training camp and ended up winning gold medals at Western Canada Games with a great bunch of teammates, and fell in love with the sport and hung up my blades for a little while, and ended up being 10 years. And when I was 27 years old, after the Sydney Olympics, was when I had this realization that if I don't go back to skating, I never will. And I still can't believe I went back to skating at 27 and really relearned how to skate after only speed skating for a year and a half as a teenager. Because I grew up playing ringette. That was my sport. That's why I knew how to skate. So
you could have been a 4-sport.
I
you could have done ringette, rowing. Marnie McBean just lives around the corner here. You can go over and see her golds anytime.
I know, I have. And rowing and also cross-country skiing are 2 sports that really intrigue me. So if I have another afterlife of sport, I'll pick those 2.
Where does Cindy Clausen live? Where can we go find her?
Yeah, let's not even talk about Cindy. She's amazing.
She is too.
Way stronger than me.
I don't know about that, but she's good too. Let's do another excerpt from your book. Sheldon, I'm board 3 at the top of page 4 here. The lesson I learned in Torino, the 2006 Winter Olympic Games, was this: for medals to mean something to me, they must stand for more than my having crossed the finish line faster than anyone else. Otherwise, they were just souvenirs I sent to my mom in Winnipeg to share with family and friends. What earned me gold in Torino was not just my thousands of hours of training, but my feelings of fierce commitment to right to play at a time when I was in no condition to medal. My professional life had intersected with my personal life, teaching me how to live. Okay, we've talked about your guy as being part of the transformation of your personal life. Let's talk about right to play. Why don't we just start? I don't assume everybody knows what this is. Why don't we just start with what it is?
Oh, first we have to talk about Johan Olaf Koss.
Boss Koss.
Yeah, Koss the boss, the Norwegian speed skater, 4-time Olympic champion. He won 3 gold medals on 3 world records in the Lillehammer Olympics at his home games. And whereas, you know, you're going to take, an athlete's going to enjoy that spotlight, especially in a somewhat fringe sport like speed skating. It's a big sport in Norway, but worldwide it's not a big sport. But what Johan did, he was going through medical school at the time and had a chance to go to Africa and visit an African nation and see abject poverty in front of him and see kids without the chance to play. And when Johan went to the Olympics in Lillehammer, as he tells it, he just knew that it had to be more than just winning. And he wanted to do something for these kids. So he gave them a voice in his success and donated his own Olympic bonus money to Olympic Aid at the time through the International Olympic Committee and challenged Norwegians to give what they had. He got the idea of giving back as an athlete. He was a huge part of that. And Olympic Aid morphed into Right to Play for Johan, and he established this movement that uses sport and play to transform the lives of children in third world countries who are dealing with poverty, who are dealing with war and disease. And it uses play as a mechanism to teach and to better the lives of children. It uses a game of tag to teach about malaria and how it can be transmitted and how you can protect yourself. So all of these programs, I've been to Africa and the Middle East many times and witnessed this in action. It's transformative. And for myself, it connected me back to the transformation that happened when I saw Gaetan skate. Something happened inside of me that made me believe in myself and gave me confidence and allowed me to be better to myself. And I saw that in the kids in the Right to Play programs. And I actually saw a documentary the morning of my race in Turin and saw from Uganda Canadian athletes with those children in the field of play, former child soldiers. And when these kids played soccer and were engaged, I saw this, you know, darkness in their eyes transform to joy, to childhood. And I just thought, you know, I had pneumonia going into Torino. I was really sick and I lost a lot of my endurance and strength and just wasn't feeling good on that ice. And that morning when I saw those kids transform, I knew Johan's story, and another American athlete in Torino, Joey Cheek, had donated his prize money. Americans had raised $500,000 for Right to Play because of Joey's actions with his gold medal. I wondered what would happen in Canada. And the difference was we didn't have any Olympic bonuses at the time. But what I had was $10,000 in mine and Peter, my husband's, bank account, and decided to dedicate it to those kids.
I remember.
But I knew I had to win to do it. I knew I needed the platform. And so the energy and the strength that I found in myself for that race came from those kids, and gave it back with that 10 grand that turned into almost $500,000. And we've donated every year since, matched that first donation, and given even more than that most years.
Phenomenal. Yeah. Clara, you are an inspiration. And I want to thank you so much for coming into TVO tonight and helping us do our part on Bell Let's Talk Day.
I think we all have a role to play, and it's using our voice in our own unique ways, and everybody engaging and helping each other. That's what I'm most proud of and proud to be a part of. Thanks.
Thank you.
Help TVO create a better world through the power of learning. Visit TVO.org and make a tax-deductible donation today.